Hey, everybody, this is Alex Merced, and welcome to my tech podcast that I film or record whenever I feel like I have something to say. And basically, we'll start off this week start off this episode just discussing where I'll be speaking. So, for those of you who know, I tend to travel a lot to speak at a lot of different events. And next week, I'll be speaking at a data and AI meetup in New York City. That's on Tuesday night. And again, pretty much any event that I'm going to be at, you'll be able to find on my events calendar. So if you just head over to alexmerced.com or datalakehousehub.com, you will find the calendar of events I'll be speaking at. But so I'll be speaking at a Data Lake event. Also, the following Saturday, I'll be speaking at Data Day Texas, which is an event I've gotten to speak at several times over the years. One of my favorite events. They're calling it the final edition. I don't know if that means this is the last one. That would be very sad. It's been an institution in the industry for quite a while. So I'll make sure to enjoy that as much as I can and save the experience of just sort of being with sort of all my colleagues in the data space and kind of, just being all in the same place at the same time, which is always a nice experience. Okay, and that'll be on next Saturday, which should be January 24th. Now, in February, I will be doing a couple meetups in San Francisco on February 11th and 12th, both data AI, Lakehouse, Iceberg meetups, where I'll be talking about such. So I'll be there in San Francisco for that week. Then I'll also be in North Carolina speaking at a NetApp event. Chances are, if you're going to that, you already are going to that. Then in March, things get pretty interesting. I will be working the Dremio booth at Gartner. So if you're one of those people who go to the Gartner conference, which is not a cheap conference to go to, but if you're there, I will be there. And also I will be in Australia and New Zealand speaking at Data Eng Bytes, which, abbreviated Data Engineering Bytes. And it's one of the bigger conferences globally for data engineering. So it's kind of cool to actually get to be on the roster this year and get to go to Australia, which I've never been to, or New Zealand. So I'll be in that area of the world then. And then there is the off chance in April, I'll be speaking at SQLBits in London. So that's where I will be speaking. Again, there's probably more events. Check out the calendar, alexmerced.com, datalakehouseHub.com, dremio.com. Any of those event calendars should highlight the events that I'm going to be at. But, what's been on my mind a lot lately is sort of AI and really just sort of maximizing my productivity with AI and just like playing with all these different tools. And different tools I'm playing with, probably, as I mentioned in the last episode, like the tool I've really been spending a lot of time with is Google Anti-Gravity. And they just released a new version with skills. And this is just another standard that's come out of like Claude. Now, Claude and Anthropic have now created two sort of really major standards in the AI space, and that is skills and MCP. So MCP, again, is that standard so that way you can have these sort of servers, these external applications that provide tools and templates for AI agents to be able to act on things, like be able to go like send an email, things like that. Skills are more about creating sort of like replicatable steps, not within external tooling, but within the AI itself. So that way, if you've ever been in a process where you tell the AI, go through like the same pattern and have the AI do this, and then it does Y, and then it does Z to get to the same place, and you kind of repeat this process every time, well, you can now document that as a skill and say, okay, first do this, then do that, then do this. So that way, next time you want to do it, you can just say, trigger the skill. Okay, like I have a skill that helps put together a weekly digest of content that I put out. So I say, hey, make this week's digest now, instead of going through like 10 different prompts. I have another one that's about like looking for events for me to speak at. Okay, so now instead of me saying, okay, do a deep research on this, now filter it by this, and then do this, I can kind of put all those details and just trigger the skill. Okay, so it's kind of like creating a tool, but except you're not creating a tool to run external code. What you're doing sort of creating like that sequence of prompt responses, or basically a sequence of prompts and tasks that the AI is going to do. Okay, so that's really useful, particularly when let's say you're doing coding, because you want to do, let's say, like I want to run like a consistent sort of testing pattern, saying, okay, hey, test everything that I have now using a live test, then afterwards create regression testing, whatnot. Like that was a pattern that I was doing a lot when I was using Anti-Gravity last month, where I would implement a feature, and then first I'd have it write unit tests on the feature, check if those unit tests pass. Then I'd have it run live tests where it actually like would run the server and then test like against live usage of the product. And then afterwards, once the feature has now been verified through unit testing and live testing, I would then write regression testing, basically things that would, additional tests that would try to catch any changes in behavior that might break the behavior. So that way, if I made some other change, we can catch regressions as they happen instead of finding out like down the road that something broke. Which certainly reduce a lot of friction later on if you do it strategically. So I could create a skill that just kind of outlines that step instead of me having to go through that whole sort of routine every time. Still way faster than, coding 5 years ago where you'd write the code, run the tests, write the code, run the tests, and then do a lot of testing. And then every time have to rebuild the application, go through all sorts of CI/CD pipelines, pull requests, all sorts of machinations before you can go do a test again. Basically, this certainly accelerates the process. It's been pretty cool to kind of see how much I've been able to build over the last month. Like last time I built some like Python. I mentioned I built some Python tooling for like lake houses. I built Pangolin catalog, a lake house catalog. Now I've been working on some MCP servers and a lot of sort of like a lot more lightweight tooling. Like I've created some, basically what I've been doing is recreating a lot of tools that I use myself. Like I love Notion, but there's sometimes I want like a Notion like interface, but I'm not like writing like very like sensitive notes. I just need something I can quickly grab and take notes in and not have to worry about being logged out and logging back in. So I created like a little Notion like application that I can quickly pull up in the browser, saves everything in local storage and IndexedDB. And that, basically if I just need to kind of write down some notes, I can just bring up this application really quick. It's mylocalnotes.alexmerced.app if you'd like to use it yourself. Also did something like a little mini Excalibur. Again, just in case if there's ever a day I just need to just sketch out a diagram and I can't log into my Excalibur account or something like that. And then there was one more that I built. Also built marketingtools.alexmerced.app, which is a page that has all sorts of different really useful little marketing things, whether it is helping write UTMs for your URLs and SEO best practices and lots of other really cool little nifty tools like appending PDFs, things that you might use day to day for marketing. So instead of having like all these different websites I go to for one tool or that tool, I can aggregate all the tools in sort of one application that I can use that's completely client side. So completely free and other people can use it and whatnot. And I feel like this opens up, because you can do more robust applications quickly. This opens up a world of creating like client-side applications that are just free to use, that are actually quite robust. And I saw the first real example of this in Screen.now. Okay, and Screen.now is like a screen recording. Like there's a lot of like different programs you can download that really help you make really fancy screen recordings for like doing demos or presentations and whatnot. I usually just use the OBS Studio, and I still, for the most part, do. And I have a Riverside FM account for like live streaming. But Screen.now is just free, and it works fantastic. It's really simple, but the results look really good. Okay, because it gives you some options, but not so many options that probably, and it's completely client-side. Like you're not storing anything on a remote server, everything's stored on your computer, so it's absolutely free for people to use. There really is no backend, which is really if you use it, Screen.now, like if you use it, like you'll be amazed what is possible front end only, and the quality of experience and videos I'm able to make and how quickly I can make them. Since I'm not dealing with logging in and having to worry about like server communications, I just kind of go in there, record, let it render, download the MP4. It's like a really smooth workflow for creating videos, and I like it quite a bit. So this has just kind of got my brain like tingling on what's sort of possible as far as creating tooling that doesn't necessarily replace paid for tooling. Like for example, there's a lot of benefits to having something like Riverside FM that can automatically like cut my videos up into smaller bits, that stores my videos for posterity that I can access from any computer. But there's also a great value in having like free tooling that I can just quickly grab willy-nilly, regardless of what computer I'm on, and start from fresh. If I just need sort of a fresh thing to use, I don't need access to all my saved data. I just need to be able to do something now really quick. So tools like Screen.now, some of those other tools that I made that I mentioned, those are super useful in that regard. I can just hop from computer to computer and have a decent amount of tooling without having to worry about logging in on someone else's computer or something like that. So these are things that are sort of enabled by this sort of like agentic AI world, where you can use coding agents to really build, like, again, powerful tooling with a little effort. So I found that really, really fascinating, really, really cool. Other really interesting stuff that's kind of going on in the AI world this week is the whole controversy with Anthropic. bottom line is they say they've restricted usage of their AI API. So basically, think about it this way. When you think of the major LLM providers, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, they generally have typically two models in which you can use their models. There's usually like a monthly account where you have like these quotas. So you pay every month and you have a certain quota that you can use or not use. Okay. And you don't pay any more. You can use it as much as you want up to that quota. Then there's the API where you don't pay anything up front. You just pay per usage. So for every time you make a request, you're paying so much for X number of tokens, and then you rack up a bill that you pay as you rack up the bill. So if you're doing a lot of AI work or you're doing a lot of requests to the AI, those tokens are going to add up and you're going to spend a lot of money really quick. So for a lot of like more moderate everyday day-to-day users, these monthly plans make a lot of sense. And for a while, there's a new tool that's sort of getting a lot of hype called OpenCode. Essentially, it's like Claude Code, but fancier, and you can pretty much use like any model with it. And one of the things people used to do is they would log into their Claude account with OpenCode, so that way when they're making requests, they're making requests under their monthly Claude subscription. And Anthropic did not like this. Makes sense, because they would make more money if you have to do it through the API. They're subsidizing you with the monthly plans for using their tooling, because the model is, they want you to get used to their tooling, so that way their product is stickier. So from a business extent, I understand why, but there's a lot of developers, and developers are definitely people who do not like it when you try to trap them in a box. They are very much against that, which is always, if you've ever been in a business where you're trying to capture developers as your target market, that's always one of the big tricks. Like, how do you create a product that's open enough for developers to feel comfortable adopting it, yet sticky enough that you actually retain your customers long term? And really the answer is you just have to build a product that's always the best. The problem is like that's a constantly shifting target in tech, especially. But basically, a lot of people got upset they weren't able to use their OpenCode broke. So then OpenAI and Google went in the opposite direction. They made it where it is okay to go log into their monthly plans within OpenCode and use those quotas. And so basically, like, a bunch of people just stopped using their Claude subscriptions through OpenCode. And I think even some people were angry enough that they canceled their Claude subscriptions. But, just one of those interesting events. Like, didn't affect me much. I was already using Anti-Gravity. I subscribe to Google. I do have a Claude subscription, just a pro subscription, but I do have an ultra subscription to Google. I have been really using and cranking the midnight oil with Anti-Gravity, that it was warranted. I was hitting the quotas even at the pro level quite frequently. So I decided to bump up the ultra, which is expensive. It's like a $200 subscription for a month. Subscription for really, for the most part, just bigger quotas. I mean, you do get slightly bigger quotas across other AI tooling in Google. But the main thing I've noticed is that, and you get certain features across, like things like Notebook LM and Gemini a little earlier when they release new stuff. Like, I noticed I got the Notebook LM feature in Gemini a little earlier than a lot of other people did, and a lot of people still don't have that feature. So that's nice. Still not 100% sure if it's worth the cost, but I'm using it enough that it's worth it for me, I guess. But yeah, no, overall, it's just amazing what is possible. All the things that another really cool thing that I discovered over the week is that Suno, which is like the AI music thing, I usually use it to like generate like instrumentals I'll use in the backgrounds of videos or something like that. Because I really kind of like 8-bit sounding music, so I'll generate like 8-bit sounding music to put in the back of like videos and things like that where I'm talking. But I learned that the covering features, like, you can use old audio, and I've grabbed like old audio from like me writing songs back when I was in college, when I play songs with like guitar and things like that, and put it through Suno and actually really get like really impressive sort of like versions of old songs that I wrote, which is, very impactful to kind of hear songs that like I wrote in sort of like, top 40 quality production and whatnot. So that was sort of like a nice experience, and I think like shows like a different side. Like, people always like get really skeptical of like just generating sort of artistic things, but if anything, it's like it made me want to be more creative, want to write more songs, because there's more of an opportunity for me to like get to enjoy the art of writing songs and get to see the end result more so than in the past, where like, you know, you get to a point, you write a bunch of songs and you're like, kind of like, for what, if it never is going to be something that like necessarily people want to listen to. I mean, people would want to listen to it when I played it live, but the recordings were like not the greatest, so no one wanted to listen to those over and over again, because they were just like recordings I did with like a little handheld audio recorder. All this stuff is on YouTube if you want to look it up. So if you just look up the Alex Merced Music YouTube channel, you can find all this stuff and all sorts of fun stuff. I'm definitely not one to live privately. You can find all my stuff online. But yeah, so those are the kind of things that have been on my mind. Notice I haven't talked too much about like data and data lakehouses lately. There's a lot of exciting things going on. Like, I am excited by the prospect of sort of what's going on. Like, again, for those who don't know, I work for a company called Dremio, and we've built this new cloud platform. Like, we've had a cloud platform before, but we just re-released it, and it really enables you to kind of have agentic analytics at scale really quickly. Like, literally, you just connect your data, and you can begin asking natural language questions of your data. And it's been fun sort of really playing with it and trying to like find different ways to ask questions and get different results and generate different visualizations for different ideas. And I've been making a lot of videos showing these kind of demonstrations, which you can find on the Dremio YouTube channel. But yeah, no, if you're in the data space and haven't played with Dremio before, head over to Dremio.com. You can try out the 30-day trial for free. There's no credit card, no infrastructure. It's 100% free, zero cost for the 30 days. And I think it's worth experiencing, kind of see what it is and see if it's something that actually will make your life easier. I still think it's pretty neat. But man, the array of AI tooling just keeps getting better every day. Yeah, as someone who generally embraces new technology, I definitely feel like it's enriched my life, enriched my productivity. I'm able to see a lot more of my ideas come to life faster. And I feel like, as someone who's more of a high level idea person, in a sense of where like being able to see it, and I think that's going to become, in my opinion, the future is going to be less about specialization and more being that high level thinker, that person who sees the big picture. Because AI now sort of reduces the demand for specialization because it can do a lot of those specialized tasks, but it doesn't necessarily have the vision for what it can help you build a tree. It can be a tree, but it doesn't know what the forest always should look like. Like, if you tell it you want a forest, then it knows to build a forest. But if you want a very magical forest, you have to have the vision to say, hey, I want a forest where there's rainbows and gumdrops for bushes and all sorts of fun stuff. Like, it's the thing it doesn't have is imagination, and that's going to be, and even with music, like for example, going back to Suno. With Suno, you can generate songs, but more interestingly, you can generate songs and then pull them into stems, where each individual track is separated. And you can do really interesting things with that. Like, you can go in there, and now Suno Studio's gotten more advanced, where you can actually go in there, take those tracks, and actually regenerate bits and pieces of it. So you can, sit there and say, hey, I want to generate X. But if you really know music and you really have vision, you can go in there and take those individual tracks and really fine tune them into something special. And on top of that, you can, if you're like a music producer, you can pull those tracks and use them as samples to create something even more magical. So there are ways. I do feel very confident that like AI is something that can extend your creativity and make in ways that a lot of people don't necessarily imagine. People get, I think, overly hostile to the idea of someone doing the thing for them. Or the way I think about it is, people get frustrated that they've invested the time to attain certain skills when they see people who can achieve sometimes not necessarily the same heights, but the same average, the same mean of quality, without the same level of skill. Okay, people, at the end of the day, like, you're not going to be the best at anything purely leveraging AI or semi-intelligently leveraging AI. Now, but the thing is that but then you have to look at the flip side, that if you're that person who knew the thing really well, or knew the thing decently well, okay, you mix a good understanding, a good high-level knowledge of a particular surface area with AI, you can do now amazing things. And that's really exciting. Okay. The barriers are limitless. So instead of focusing on like resenting others for having less barriers than you did. It's focusing more on, hey, what barriers have been taken down for you and how you can leap to new heights because those barriers have been taken down for you. To me, it's like the more sort of productive way of thinking about it. Again, I find like I get into a lot of conversations where people take that former approach where they're quickly feeling resentful of barriers taken away from others and how that affects them, because it can make certain things feel more commoditized or less unique or less marketable, and there's a truth to that. But at the same time, now that it's easier to go as far as you've been going, how much further can you go now? That's the question you have to ask yourself. How much further can you go now that the barriers are gone? Okay, if the person who understands this stuff half as me can march as far as I can go now, that means I must be able to go 2 times further. Have you tried? Have you seen how far that can be? I don't know. I think these are interesting questions. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Again, you guys can follow me on LinkedIn, everywhere. Just head over to alexmerced.com and follow me with all the good stuff. And I'll see you all later. Have a great day. Again, this is the Alex Merced Tech Podcast. This has basically become my sole tech feed. There'll probably be one other show that'll be coming up as my work show. But this will still be sort of just where my outlet, where I express my opinions and my thoughts. Yeah, I'll see y'all later. Have a great day and enjoy.